Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Today, we have our 2024 AL East projections. We'll get into all that and more next.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers join today and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Well, it was an interesting weekend. A lot of baseball to watch. I worked all weekend. Carter, I know you had our beer league hockey first game of playoffs. I didn't get out there to make it to, but did well.
Yeah, it was pretty good. We were the second place team coming in. We're playing the seventh place team. Only 3-2 after two periods, so we were shaking in our boots a little bit, but eventually did get the goals to come. And yeah, we ended up taking the game 9-3. So I'd say it's pretty successful.
Yeah, nice. We got this coming weekend. I think we have another game Tuesday, and then this coming weekend we play for it's like the big finals day. So we got the St. Patrick's Day social after that. Should be a great day. I'm always looking forward to that weekend, baseball weekend. Sorry, that is our slow pitch league or whatever, and then golf weekend as well. So we got tons to look forward to this summer. You know, it's sort of getting nice out. The temperature's starting to warm up. I'm starting getting the itch back for baseball and for golf. So yeah, it should be interesting. But you know, we're getting closer and closer every day to this 2024 season. And we have made our stat projections for this season. But Carter, first of all, do you want to go over what some of the sites have for the AL East?
Yeah, so far, based off what I've been looking at, the most common standings predictions are pretty much everyone has Boston at 5, which makes sense. The other 4 are kind of flipped all over the place, but this is what I got most commonly. So they have the New York Yankees leading the division in most cases, around 94 wins. That's their over-under, so it would be 94 and a half. Not a bad line there. Then they actually do have the Toronto Blue Jays sitting at 88 and a half, or it's 87 and a half wins, the Toronto Blue Jays. Second place, I would take that in this division. Then the consensus is the Rays, surprisingly, then the Orioles, and then the Red Sox. So that is the consensus. It does make sense. The Yankees, you get Juan Soto, Marcus Stroman goes over there. It's easy to make a case for why the Yankees should be the leaders in the division. The Orioles, I'm surprised that they're only 4, considering how good they were last season. Then the Rays did have had a pretty bad offseason, but the Rays are the Rays. They find ways to do it. They don't necessarily make the huge moves, but they just have a very consistent baseball team that can seemingly play through a lot of injuries. It seems like that team is very deep, so they're always in the running. And then obviously the Toronto Blue Jays with this pitching staff, there is no way that we are going to be at the bottom of this division.
Yeah, and I mean, just want to throw it out there again. We did a whole AL East preview with all of the teams' hosts. That'll be coming out on the streaming channel. That's Locked On 24/7 streaming channel. It's available on the Fire TV app as well. So take a look out for that. You can get all your college sports, MLB, NHL, whatever you need at any time of the day. So take a look out for that Locked On 24/7 streaming channel. That'll be coming out closer to the beginning of the season. So we went into that and we all had a big discussion pretty much. And I won't spoil too much because I think you guys should tune in. But it was all over the place. Everybody had the Yankees or the Orioles. I think I was the only team to have the Yankees ending the season. Even the Yankees host didn't think the Yankees were going to be number 1. And I thought that was insane to think about. But to have, the Orioles, like you were saying, in that betting line being so low or the projections being so low in this ranking just doesn't really compute with me a whole lot. I look over that team and I think, wow, they are stellar. And like you said, the Rays, they're sort of a team that wins by communion. They all buy in, they all do their part all the time, it seems like. So it is interesting to look at the projections because some of them are like, even the win totals seem a little bit low to me. For most of the teams actually seem low. Going with the Yankees to start off with, Carter, at, would you say 94 and a half?
94 and a half is what I got here. Yeah.
See, to me, that seems, if you're picking a team, especially how much of a powerhouse the AL East is, to have the leading team at 94 and a half over under seems just bonkers to me. I don't know. Do you sort of have that same feeling?
I think the reasoning behind this is the fact that the AL East is so good and they have to play each other so often. it's tough to give a team over 94 wins is a great season, by the way. If the Jays
Yeah,
get
it
94
is.
wins, I'd be loving that. So if you're a Yankees fan, I think you should be pretty excited about a 94.5 win total for your season. But yeah, with those numbers, yeah, we could probably see the Orioles, maybe the Jays catch fire, the Yankees, the Rays. One of them we could probably see getting over 95 wins, but it's tough to predict that at the start of the year, especially with the uncertainty with the division teams, right? There's four
Yeah,
teams in my mind could all win the division. Sorry to
yeah.
the Boston Red Sox, unfortunately. As soon as they got rid of Mookie Betts, I mean, for me, that franchise has been pretty unserious about baseball. And I know a lot of Red Sox fans feel that the same way. But yeah, I see it going down to the wire for these top four teams. And I could make an argument for any one of them to win the division at the end of the year.
Well, and see, my biggest point to all of this predictions for 2024 was that I could realistically see three teams being over 90 wins, which is just insane to think about that. That's a realistic possibility. And the other part of that, sort of the opposing view, is that there's only so many wins to go around, especially division wins. So you got to take that into consideration. But if you look back at last year, the Jays were almost that third team to have 90 wins with 89. So it is right there. It's definitely a possibility, and especially I don't think we're going to see the Orioles get over 100 wins again this season. But I think they still will be very good. Carter, I'll go over sort of what I have here in just order wise, and then we can sort of debate on the wins that'll go around this AL East. But starting off, me and Carter sort of had this a little bit of a debate going back and forth, and some talks about where we would place teams and who goes where. But this is what we came up with. We think the Yankees are going to win the division, with the Orioles with a close behind, followed by the Blue Jays, then the Rays, and then of course the Red Sox. And the only reason to put the Rays so low, and I think that realistically they could be better, is the fact that, like we said, it's a win by communion. If everybody's not bought in, if everybody's not doing their part, they don't have that ultimate star power that the Yankees do, that the Blue Jays do, that the Orioles do, right? So that's sort of something interesting to look at. Cardi, do you think we placed the Rays in a good spot there?
Yeah, I have the Rays at 4 as well. I have actually the exact same list as you. We kind of went over it before the episode, and the only thing we had different was some of the win totals. You had some of the teams having a little bit more wins than I did, but I think it's definitely fair for the Rays to be 4. But like I said, I can definitely see the Rays leading the division like they were last year. It
Yeah,
seemed like the
yeah,
Rays were one of the best teams to ever play baseball for the first few months of the season, and then obviously they had that historic fall off and could never really catch fire again. Yeah, one thing with the Rays, I mean, obviously they lost Wander Franco, which I mean, tough for them, but not tough for Wander Franco.
yeah.
Shane
Good for them.
McClanahan, again, I don't think he's going to pitch this season. So they have a lot of losses. They got Ahmed Rosario, which is like okay, but knowing the Rays, they'll somehow turn him into God and he'll start hitting 300. And
Yeah,
it's they always seem to be like underappreciated and undervalued. The Rays. Everyone
yeah,
always thinks they're not going to be that good because they don't have the spectacular offseason, but then they just find guys in the system. They find diamonds in the rough. It seems like every year. I can definitely see them, like I said, catching fire, going on a big win streak. Their pitching is there. Their bullpen's really good. Randy Rosarena's great too. Isaac Paredes looked great last year. Rosarena struggled a little bit so far in spring training, but with this AL East, it's so tough to predict because there's so many different things that could happen. It's tough to predict injuries. So like Aaron Judge, if he goes out, I don't really see the Yankees even sniffing the division. So there's a lot of things that you can't really account for, but I think
yeah.
it is fair to put the Rays at 4 to start the year.
Yeah, I do want to go over the win totals because I think that's where sort of the interesting bits start to fall into play here. So Carter, I'll give you mine for the Yankees, then you give me yours, and we can talk about it, and then sort of move down the list like that. I had the Yankees with 98 wins.
Yeah, I have the Yankees actually cracking the 100 mark and getting 101. Just looking at their roster compared to some of the other teams, I mean, Alex Verdugo is hitting like 7 on this team. They have Rizzo, Judge, Soto, Gleyber Torres look good. It's such a deep lineup. And their pitching is unbelievable too. Obviously, Carlos Rodon had a bad season last year. Garrett Cole, as much as we do hate him as Blue Jays fans, great pitcher. Can't really say too much negative about him. Cy Young winner last year. Just such a deep lineup. The problem is there is a lot of swing and miss in that lineup. You know, if Stanton decides to go cold, he can go 1 for 30 at points. Rizzo is kind of an up and down player. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can kind of put it all together this season. I think with the Yankees, the biggest thing they're going to need is the bottom of the line production because you know you're going to get what you're going to get out of Rizzo. You know what you're going to get out of guys like Juan Soto, Aaron Judge. But is guys like Oswaldo Cabrera going to be good? Is he going to be a guy that can contribute at the bottom of that lineup? Is Austin Wells another guy that is catching for them? If they can get contributions from the bottom of their order and get the guys on base for guys like Aaron Judge, Juan Soto, teams are going to be scared in a lot of different situations this season.
Yeah, and I think the only reason I have them at a little bit lower is the fact that you exactly brought up is the fact that if Aaron Judge or Juan Soto, one of these big guys get injured or goes cold, right? They might drop a couple here and there. And like I made the point earlier, is that there's only so many wins to go around, and I think that a team breaking 100 again this year, I just don't see it in the cards. But moving down, we have the Orioles, of course, in second. I have them at 95 wins, just because I think this year it's going to be pretty tight for that leading spot in the AL East.
I have them at 97. I think those two teams are going to be tight going down the stretch. I have the next team a little bit lower than them, but I mean, it's tough to see the Orioles not having another successful season. They added Corbin Burnes, which is one of the best pitchers in baseball, to lead off that top of the rotation. Grayson Rodriguez, another young guy coming up. And that's the thing about their system. You see it in spring training. The Baltimore Orioles are rolling over pretty much everyone they play. I think as of right now, they're like 14-2. Again, spring training doesn't really matter. It's prospects, mostly playing prospects. The bigger guys, big league guys, are just kind of easing into it. Maybe now you can start reading into the stat lines a little bit more because we do have more of a sample size. You can start following some trends. And the Baltimore Orioles have been successful and at every level, pretty much. The big league guys are doing it. They have a ton of prospects coming up. Jackson Holiday is probably going to come up this year. So I can definitely see them hitting the 100 win mark again. It just kind of depends on how these rookies can develop throughout the season.
Yeah, exactly. And me and you talk about this all the time. I think we've brought it up in this podcast of just how deep the Orioles are, right? If a guy gets injured, okay, well, they might have a prospect in the system to bring up. They don't have to make these big blockbuster trades. They don't have to make these huge acquisitions, even though they obviously can do that as well. They have a lot of pieces within their own system, which is not something you can necessarily say for this Blue Jays team. If we have one big injury, that's going to hurt us, right? For a long period of time. That's not counting obviously catcher, because I think we're pretty good there, but in other positions for sure it could hurt us, especially in the outfield right now. Going to our Blue Jays, of course, this is what maybe everybody wants to know. I have them slotted in at 90, just in the fact that I think in my own head that we are going to see 390 win teams in this AL East division here. I know you don't have that because I think we've alluded to it. But in a case for me, it's just the fact that, yeah, the Blue Jays necessarily aren't built better than last year. But I think with a couple bounce backs, and especially the bounce back, if we can get it from Vlad Guerrero Jr., that is where the difference is going to be made, right? Those driving in runs. And you already see the guys swinging the bats so much better. Just being able to place the ball, doesn't that look like they're fighting as much? It doesn't look like we're having to pray to God that an infielder makes a mistake to get on base. So I think in all of that, I think this team is going to be better. And if I'm saying that they're going to be better this year, I can't put them below 89 wins.
And that's exactly what I have them as, actually, is 89 wins. And it's been very obvious with this team from the start of last season. The pitching's there. Nobody really left. We lost Jordan Hicks. We gained Yariel Rodriguez. Everyone else is there. So the pitching shouldn't dip too much. Maybe some guys have a little bit of regression. Maybe some guys pitch better. But the skill is there. The talent is there in the starting rotation and the bullpen. The biggest question marks for this season is going to be the Toronto Blue Jays' ability to hit the baseball. And we've been talking about this the entire offseason so far. You need bounce backs from guys like Vladdy, like Dalton Varsho. Alejandro Kirk looks so good so far this spring training. Vogelback's going to be another guy that hopefully is around. It's going to be interesting with him and Joey Votto, which we'll get into a little bit later. Did tease that on our Thursday night recording episode posted on Friday. So I can give props to myself a little bit there. But yeah, if you can get Vladdy hitting 35 home runs, if you can get Alejandro Kirk hitting 280 again, if you can get Dalton Varsho to be productive at the bottom of that order, this is another team again. The pitching is stellar. If you can get some offense on this team, I can see the Jays winning the division as well. And that's the craziest thing about this AL East.
Well, and that's why it was tough for me to drop them as well below 90. I feel like those three teams, it could be any of them. And God forbid, it could be the Rays as well, right? So that's what's very difficult. And in my head, I'm trying to justify, okay, how many wins do you think this team? And that's why I was going through. I'm like, okay, I believe in my heart of hearts that the Jays are going to be better. So I'm going to give them that extra win. And that's not saying that they won't win more. They won't, have another tough season and maybe win less. But, I'm a fan as well. So I got to go into this with excitement and with hope and not the feeling of dread early on.
That was the biggest thing for me is that I was really trying to keep my emotions out of the Jays prediction because in my head, I want the Jays to go 162-0. And if they win that first game, you're damn right I'm going to be posting 162-0
Yeah.
all over my social medias because that's just one thing that Jays fans do. That's what all sports fans do is they overreact to some things and they think their team can be necessarily a little bit worse or a lot of times a little bit better than they actually are, especially regarding guys like Vladdy. I mean, Chris Bassett, like these guys are good, but like in 2021, we're saying Vladdy is easily the best player in the league, and he was one of the best players in the league. But it's just I really tried to keep my Jays bias out of it, but it did creep in a little bit. I almost had him at 2, but I did put him at 89 wins. I think that is pretty modest.
Well, and let's remember what we're doing here, right? We're not trying to be out here and being like the journalists that have to, I got to be unbiased. No, we're fans of this team. Otherwise, what's the point? What's the point of having a podcast and we'll talk about your favorite team if you're not going to allow your bias to come in, if you're not going to get excited, if you're not going to get upset? And that's what's honestly what drew us to Locked On right from the beginning was that the fact that you can have your opinions, you can be over the moon, you can, you can tell guys that maybe, hey, join Bradley Zimmer on Mars, right? That's the good thing about this podcast. Why we love doing it. That's why we love, when you guys comment stuff to us too, is like, okay, it's fans talking to fans here. Don't get me wrong. We're going to try to get you guys some information as quickly as we can, and we're going to put our thinking caps on and stuff like that once in a while too. But we're going to overreact this season. It's going to happen. We're going to maybe throw guys to the dirt as well as, but overall we're fans talking Blue Jays to other fans. It doesn't get any better than this.
No, what's going to happen is Vladdy's going to hit a home run in the first game, or Manoah's first start's going to be horrible. And then we're going to be like, Vladdy is the MVP of the season. He's the best player to ever walk the face of the earth. And it's going to be like, Alek Manoah can go to Mars for all we care. Whatever he's done, it's horrible. We're going to overreact. That's just how it is, especially early on in the season when you've been waiting for the regular season to start for so long in spring training.
God, I'm sweating over here. Like I just want the season to be. I was watching baseball today, and you know what? As much as spring training is great, it's not regular season baseball, right? It's not postseason baseball. So when we start getting into this regular season, I can start to believe. I can start to throw bets on the games. That's when I'm going to be excited. But we might as well let's just cap this off. I got the Rays winning 83 games.
I got them at 86. Again, injury-prone team, but they somehow find ways to do it. Is 86 wins good enough to make the playoffs in the AL? I don't think so, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Rays find a way in there. It's just going to be tough for them to compete with this division, with it being so good and without their ace starting pitcher.
Yeah, exactly. And that's sort of my thinking too. And maybe 83 is low. It probably is. But this team always seems to find a way, and eventually that's got to catch up with you, you think, right? And maybe you have a bad season. I mean, they seem to just be able to figure it out every time. But eventually, I think that not having those superstar players necessarily is going to catch up with this team. You got to have a couple of guys that can swing, for the moon, right? But they just don't necessarily have a ton of that. So I think that might catch up with them this season. Looking at the Red Sox, I have them at 76 wins.
I also have them at 76 wins. It's just this Red Sox team is very unimpressive to me. I know like Devers is good. Yoshida looked great last season. But when you're looking at like the roster moves they made, their first ace pitcher is Nick Pivetta. So that's not great to say the least.
And you know what? I don't hate Pivetta. I actually was like a little bit of a fan of his, playing the game, watching some of his games. I sort of I was like, okay, this guy, but having him as your number one, as you were alluding to, is not the way that this team can run.
Yeah, and they got Tyler O'Neill as well, which I really wanted the Jays actually to get this offseason. So that was a good move by them. But the pitching's just not there. The lineup is okay at best. They have Trevor Story projected to hit 3 in their lineup. I don't know when the last time that guy's been good, but I don't know if I'd want him in number 3 in my order. The Red Sox, their organization just needs to become more serious about baseball. They let Mookie Betts walk for nothing. They're not re-signing any guys. They didn't re-sign Justin Turner after the great season they had last year. I know he's getting up there in age, but this Red Sox organization has to start taking baseball more seriously, especially when you're playing in one of the best divisions in baseball. If you're not going out and paying superstars and building your team and letting people that want to stay in Boston walk, you're never going to have success in the AL East.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, there's not much else we can say about the Red Sox besides the fact that, hey, you know, it's just it's the care. That's the biggest thing. It seems like there's not enough heart for this organization right now. And when you look at the other teams throughout this division, it's you're facing the big dogs. You're facing some of the best teams in the league, and they're all stacked in one division. Sometimes it feels like. So it is going to be very tough for this Red Sox team until somebody starts to care more about baseball. And it just, yeah, at the end of the day, that's what it seems like, is that there's just no heart, which is sad for Red Sox fans, people that love the Red Sox. They have such a huge fan base. And for to have like a management team that just doesn't seem to care, it's not a good look.
No, it sucks, especially now when we play the Red Sox. It doesn't really feel like that old rivalry we used to kind of have when the Red Sox were competitive and the Blue Jays were competitive, especially back in like 2015, 2016. Now you go to the Red Sox and it's like, oh yeah, like it's a division opponent, but it's sort of like playing the Rays to me. It's like, yeah, it's a division opponent, you want to win, but there's not really like a ton of bad blood there. Where in turn, the Blue Jays play the Yankees, and there might be a brawl every single game they play. The last time they played, Aaron Judge was there, and the Blue Jays were accusing him of cheating. John Schneider was calling the opposing manager fat boy. It was awesome to watch as a fan. But that's kind of things that Blue Jays fans live for. You want to see these cool moments that aren't necessarily going to happen every single game. You want intensities to be high, and you want to see player emotion out there. That's what gets you involved in the game.
Yeah, I mean, I just look back even to spring training just now. Garrett Cole coming at Daniel Vogel back, right? It's like, okay, I'm sitting there on the couch and this fires me up enough where I pull up my phone to make a TikTok, right? So it's moments like those throughout the season I'm just so ready for it. I can't like stop thinking about it enough, of all these little things. The games against the Yankees, when we play the Dodgers for the first time, it's going to be just insane, especially after the whole Shohei thing, which still hurts me to my very core, and I don't know if I'll ever fully recover.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe Shohei gets booed when he's coming here. Maybe whatever airlines he was predicted to go on or was supposed to be on, they might get boycotted by the Toronto Blue Jays fan base. But that is our standings predictions for the 2024 season. Are we going to be right? Probably not. Baseball's tough to predict. It's like we said, anything can happen. These top four teams, it really can be anyone's race. Obviously, there are favorites to be the Yankees or the Orioles, but the Jays could squeak in there. The Rays could come out of nowhere again, like they seem to do every season, and take that first division spot. But after this, we're just going to get into some more spring training news and some storylines that have been happening from spring training. There's 2 games on this Sunday. Another thing, quickly before we head to this break, is you can tell it's not regular season baseball when one of the split squad games ended in a tie today. But you can just tell they don't nobody out there really cares because it is spring training. Sporting events shouldn't end in ties. That's stupid. This isn't soccer.
This isn't soccer. We're not in Europe somewhere kicking a ball around. This is like the big time here. Like, no offense to soccer fans, whatever, but one of the worst things ever created by you guys was the tie. Nobody likes a tie. Imagine an NHL game, just guys just going in the handshake lineup after a tie.
Yeah, there's no good feelings. It almost feels like a loss. Some people used to say, obviously don't do this, but my coach used to say having a tie is like kissing your sister. I don't know where he got that from, but like, I don't know where he was coming from.
I don't know if I love that, to be honest with you.
But like, I don't know if you're supposed to be happy about kissing your sister or whatnot. So I don't get the analogy. But I think what he was trying to say is that like it's not like it's nothing. It's like, why'd you even play the game, right? If there's no winner, why are we even there?
I don't know if I'm gonna have to like clip this as like a short now of you saying that you want to kiss sisters, but
hey, you're lucky I didn't name drop the guy on this podcast. He's a guy we know pretty well, actually. I'll tell you after.
Okay. Jesus. All right. Anyway, we do want to get into a little bit of Blue Jays, what we think could happen post this season, and where this team could end up if this season goes poorly or if it goes good, and of course some spring training news and stuff. We'll get into all that right away. Today's episode is brought to you, as always, by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers can join today and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. And Carter, as you know, I'm a huge supporter of FanDuel because I use their betting site constantly. I am I don't know if it's good at sports betting, but I do enjoy it.
You donate your money time to FanDuel. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's pretty much what it is. It's a donation. I have been doing okay lately. I've been, winning some. The Vancouver Canucks have gotten me a few wins. I bet on them quite heavily against the Jets the other day, so that was a fun one to win on. At least, I was stuck at work till 1:30 a.m., so at least I got to win some extra money as well. And FanDuel helped that happen. They have the same live game parlays, which is one of my favorite things to use. You can bet on so much more. If Make sure when you guys go on to FanDuel, you can visit fanduel.com/locked on to get started. That's fanduel.com/locked on to get started. And like we said, you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. FanDuel.com/locked on to get started. Well, we sort of didn't really expect us to talk for 25 minutes about the 2024 standing predictions, but of course, it's something that's interesting to get into. We didn't want to cut halfway through and take some ad time, so we figured, okay, let's let it roll. Let's get everything out. Let's talk about it. Let's just keep the conversation going. And so, of course, now we are at like 26 minutes or something, and we were going to talk about the Blue Jays post 2024 in the sense of if they do well, if they don't do well, what are we looking at going forward? We're going to talk about that right off the rip tomorrow. We do want to talk about it because I think we both thought it was very interesting, just in the sense of where fans' heads at, where maybe the managers' heads at, where the players' heads are maybe at, and with contracts and stuff in talks over the next few years, it's going to be something very interesting that everybody's going to sort of have to keep an eye on. So we'll get into all of that tomorrow at the segment one. We'll hit it right off the bat for you guys. We do have some cool spring training, sort of just some talk to do in this next third segment. But something interesting that I wanted to get into, Carter, I saw a tweet from John Heyman, and this is Robert Murray first had this. So this is what he's saying based off of what Robert Murray says. JD Davis has been placed on waivers after Giants couldn't find a taker on trade market. Teams also knew San Fran had no spot for him after signing Chapman and Soler. His $6.9 million salary after arbitration win isn't reasonable. Jays are a team that could make sense. For me personally, we've talked about the whole third base signing, what we need. This doesn't hit the mark for me. I don't think bringing in another third baseman is anywhere near a conversation that we should or want to be having right now. I don't know how you feel. I know we haven't gone back and forth completely on this, but for me, this is an absolute no-go for the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen either. There's just already a lot of mouths to feed on this Blue Jays team. You just throw in another guy, JD Davis. He's not going to get the regular playing time like he's accustomed to. You're going to take away at-bats from guys like Kevin Biggio, Justin Turner. In some cases, David Schneider might get a little bit of playing time at third base. IKF, who's actually been really good so far hitting the baseball this spring training. And then, just another guy that is probably not going to settle for a minor league deal. You probably have to put him on the 40-man. And there'd just be too much going on with the Toronto Blue Jays. I think we've done enough talking. And if the Toronto Blue Jays really wanted another third baseman, I think they probably would have offered Matt Chapman more money than he got with the Giants. So I don't see them even being remotely in on JD Davis. I think he hit like 250 around there last year, 18 home runs, sort of similar to Matt Chapman's numbers, honestly. Matt Chapman's definitely a better defender than him too. Obviously, the price tag isn't there, but no, I don't see him coming to the Jays. I don't see the fit at all. I do see him getting picked up by another team for sure, but that's just not going to be the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, I just don't think it's in the cards. There's just no more room left, especially with, of course, Justin Turner, Joey Votto, all these guys, Daniel Vogelback. Like, it's just there's so many guys that we want to give at bats to now that why throw JD Davis into this mix and take hits away from guys that we maybe want to see that could, like we said, we sort of got to ride the hot hand, and we have a good opportunity to do that this season. So, yeah, this just isn't in the cards. I don't know what this tweet was. It sort of just threw me for a little bit of a loop. I just took a screenshot of it, and I'm like, okay, what are we doing here? Like, what's going on? But at the end of the day, it is spring training. Maybe there's still talks in some fans and analysts' head of what the Jays should or shouldn't do. And, it is interesting. We're going to take a look at the spring training games right away because over the weekend, because there was some interesting things that happened and just some stats and some storylines that have been going on throughout the spring training so far, and maybe take a look ahead to this week as well. So we'll get into all of that next. Today's episode is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV. Fire TV is your destination for sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs, as well as the Fire TV stick that you can plug into your existing TV that provides access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening weekend for baseball or the college basketball tournament, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. And as you know, we are a part of this Amazon Fire TV package. You get all the locked on content you want, which is sort of cool for us. I mean, I could see myself on a little bit of a TV channel, so I think that's pretty cool. And of course, there's a ton of other experts and hosts that cover a bunch of teams. So will also be on this Amazon Fire TV. So take a look out for that, as well as our 24/7 streaming channel that will get run through this Amazon Fire TV as well. Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes all of us, of course, at Locked On, and most of the big pro sports leagues and college conferences as well. Fire TV channels lets you dive into all of the game analysis, highlights, and more to keep up to date on the latest in the world of sports, March Madness, NBA, MLB, and lots more. Not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, traveling, cooking videos as well. Check out Fire TV channels or Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. Trust me. To learn more, visit www.amazon.com/lockedonfiretv. So Carter, we there were some games this weekend, more than regular, because there was two games, of course, on Sunday. So whatever, tonight, that I got to keep my eye on as well. I'll throw it to you first. Anything that, like, right out of the gate stands out for you?
Yeah, absolutely. And that is the Saturday start. One of the most anticipated prospects on the Blue Jays in a long time. Ricky Tiedemann finally sees the mound this spring training against a stacked Phillies lineup, too. They had a lot of their main guys going. I know they had Trey Turner at the top. Bryce Harper was there, Kyle Schwarber. So a good test for Ricky Tiedemann. His line, it's all right. I'm taking in too much of it. I mean, the Blue Jays won the game. I guess that's cool. But Ricky T's stat line here: 1 1/3 innings pitched, gave up 2 hits, 1 earned run, no walks, and 2 strikeouts against a really good Phillies lineup. I'm okay with that. I like the 2 strikeouts there. It looked like his velo was up, which is good. Didn't look like he was having any injury problems with that shoulder or anything. He looked great out there. Maybe you do want to see a little bit of a better stat line, but it is his first start of the spring. Can't really read into it too much, as we've been saying. Need to give him at least 3, 4, 5 more opportunities in spring training to really get a good look at him and make some sort of prediction of whether he might come up to the Toronto Blue Jays, if he's ready, and all that sort of things. So with Ricky T, I'm happy he got out there, and I'm just happy he's healthy and playing for the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, he looked fine. I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, the stat line doesn't jump off the page for me, but the only person that their first start mattered for me was Alek Manoah, of course. So, which is a terrible thing. We hate to do it to him, but of course, when you're coming off a not great season and then go that when everybody's expecting a bounce back, it's not the best look for you. In comparison to Rick Tiedemann, we know that he is a guy that's up and coming, that we want to wait and really develop as a pitcher. So this is a guy that, yeah, we're not going to see a ton of him maybe, but we're going to see him in spurts and give him opportunities, I think, is the best way to put that. I want to mention as well, Trevor Richards had a pretty good day on Saturday as well. He was pitched for 1 2/3 innings, only gave up 1 hit and 2 strikeouts as well. So a pretty good stat line for him. Again, I know we've sort of been talking about that he's been playing fairly good lately. And if that's something that he can keep up throughout the season, that's going to be amazing to watch as well.
Yeah, it's interesting with this bullpen, how it's going to work. If we do see the development of Yariel Rodriguez, unfortunately, I think it might be Trevor Richards who's on the leash just because of how good our bullpen is. When Trevor Richards is on and that changeup is on, it's one of the best pitches I've ever seen. The problem with Trevor Richards is that if he doesn't have his changeup, his fastball's not that good, and his changeup, if it's not moving correctly, that thing's going to get launched. So it's nice to see that Trevor Richards had a good outing. I don't want to see him waived whatsoever. He can definitely have a good role on this team, a productive role, being a middle relief guy. Can give us 2+ innings as well. Has been seen to do that in the past. So it's nice to see Trevor Richards having success. But that's one of the storylines in spring training I'm looking at the most is this bullpen, that last spot. There might be some battles near the end of the spring training, and it might only get decided right at the start of the season.
Yeah, I'll be definitely tuning in to keep up with that as well. I know that me and you talk about this all the time, is that extra spot, especially now with Yariel Rodriguez, and to see what he can do. I did want to bring up that George Springer had a great day Saturday as well. When I look at today's stats, which is Sunday's stats as well, I'm sorry, I'm just bringing up the line here. Yeah, he had a decent day again. Went 1 for 3 today, 2 for 3 or on Saturday with a home run. So he's putting up good numbers, and if we can see him keep it up too, holy moly! If we can get a prime George Springer, oh, watch out! That top spot might be coming to us, eh, Carter?
Yeah, we're going to be hunting for it for sure. It's been nice to see George Springer playing better because with Vladdy, he's been unbelievable so far in the spring training. Bo Bichette just doing what he does, smacking the ball back up the middle the other way. Love to see that. Alejandro Kirk finding a little bit of power here, hitting some bombs over the weekend. So that's one thing that I really love to see. Obviously, a guy that's had a great eye his entire career did lack some power numbers. So seeing him hit the baseball in the air and hard and out of the ballpark is awesome to see as Jays fans.
Yeah, Alejandro Kirk. I mean, we've talked about this a ton. That's a position that I'm going to be heavily keeping my eye on as the season starts. Is how much do they use Kirk? How much do they use Jano? What's the splits going to be like? And sort of, if we're looking at this, I mean, personally, I'm looking at this from a playoff perspective, right? When we get into that long term end of the year grind, which guy are we going to be leaning on? And I think with Kirk showing the power, and if he can stay steady defensively, you never know. Might be a little bit of a battle there as well.
No, for sure. And one last thing I wanted to get into, though, as well, is Ernie Clement. This guy's been kind of going off this spring training, and not a lot of people are talking about it. I think the reason that is because we do have Bo Bichette, and he's playing even better somehow. So, Ernie Clement, it would be the biggest mistake the Blue Jays made in a long time if they waived this guy. I hope that he's just playing in AAA. And at what point, Braden, do you see him maybe giving him a chance at this major league roster? When Bo Bichette was injured last season, he came in and played amazing. He was hitting over 300 in around 15 to 20 games in Bo Bichette's missing presence there. He looked great. He's been doing it again all spring training. He just had another home run this Sunday game. I think he went either it was 2 for 4 or 3 for 4. I can't remember exactly what it was, but he looks so good at the plate. He looks very comfortable there. And I'm starting to think that maybe we see Ernie Clement get a little bit of a shot, probably at second base, because I don't think you're moving Bo at short. But I'd be open to see more Ernie Clement at bats for the rest of spring training.
Listen, we've talked about this a ton, and it's 100% riding the hot hand with that second base position and second base and third base position. Because if IKF is playing great, that's awesome, right? But then we have Kevin Biggio and Davis Schneider to look out for of who we're going to play where. Davis Schneider can obviously play some of the field. Kevin can move around a ton as well. So Ernie Clement could take some at bats at second base, and honestly, I would love to see it. I think give him an opportunity, see what he can bring to the table this season, and if he's the guy that's going to take those extra strides, to being a great hitter or a 4 average hitter this season, that could really help the Jays down the stretch of, maybe deciding on who's going to take over this second base position towards the end of the season.
Yeah, riding the hot hand is going to be the key for the Blue Jays this season, as I think it's fair to say that second and third base are the two positions we're going to see with the most transitions. It's not going to be concrete position at all. It's going to be very fluid. We're going to see a bunch of different arrangements at second and third. Probably something that we're not even speculating right now. I mean, the way IKF's playing, he's deserves some spot at third base for sure. Second base right now, I'd have Ernie Clement, with Biggio not really having all the reps, and David Schneider's struggling a little bit to start off the spring training so far. But obviously, there is 3 more weeks. It's going to fly by, and we're going to be watching Blue Jays baseball that matters soon enough.
Yeah, I can't wait. And I mean, we're going to have a ton to talk about as soon as this season gets underway and leading up a little bit closer to the date. We've got some sort of some good stuff in the works here of, some big segments that we want to talk about, just looking forward to this season, of course. And then, yeah, hopefully we can bring you guys a lot more content. We really appreciate all the support again, as always, on the last couple videos. Yeah. And you know what? We got a long week, a lot of spring training left. And yeah, hopefully that some of these storylines get sort of ironed out a little bit before this season. So we're not going into the beginning of 2024 with sort of a question mark at a lot of these places. But I feel like that's going to happen. Again, thanks for watching. I want to throw it to Carter to bring up our 24/7 streaming channel one more time before we head out.
Yeah, if you guys got the chance to tune in, especially last week with how crazy that NHL trade deadline was, that would have been a perfect opportunity for you to check out our Locked On 24/7 streaming service. And like we always say, whether it's 7 p.m., 7 a.m., whenever you want to watch your sports, it's going to be there for you. It's on 24 hours of the day. So just go to YouTube and subscribe to our first ever Locked On 24/7 streaming channel.